I've got some interesting figures from Kickstarter today, as crowdfunding for games on the platform is down sharply for the first 6 months of 2016 compared with the same period in 2015. And these figures basically suggest that roughly the same number of game projects were successfully backed, but at much lower amounts. Now, according to ICO Partners, a UK-based consultancy specialising in market analysis for online games, Kickstarter backers pledged about $8.2 million to video game products in the first 6 months of 2016. However, in the first and second halves of 2015, donors pledged more than $20 million to video games in that time. That is despite roughly the same number of projects being successfully funded in all 3 periods. Now obviously, I know what you're thinking, didn't we have several high-profile Kickstarters last year? Perhaps that's contributing to this. And it is true that Shenmue 3 raised about $6 million in its campaign, and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night took 5.5 just a month before that. But this drop-off this year doesn't actually seem to be skewed entirely by the success of a single product. Both halves of 2015, which is January the 1st to June the 30th, and then July the 1st to December 31st, saw more than 20 million in pledges. And if you take Bloodstained and Shenmue 3 out of their respective halves, that would still leave 8 million of 2016's first half, down about 40% from either half in 2015. So basically, even if you take away the huge, high-profile, successful Kickstarters out of the mix, we're still looking at a drop-off this year. Or at least for the first 6 months, of course. However, that is not to discount the impact of these huge projects. While they do not explain the drop-off by themselves, they are undoubtedly a huge contributor. So, even if you say, look, take away the money, yeah, you're still looking at a bit of a drop-off, but it's not even just about the money that these particular games earned. They earned a huge amount by themselves. But let's say you go onto Kickstarter, you back Bloodstained or Shenmue, or any of the other numerous successful Kickstarters, you might say, I wonder what else is on Kickstarter, and then you go looking and maybe you find some other projects you're interested in, and even if you don't pledge right then and there, you might wait till next payday and then do it, or whatever, and there you go. You know, it's kind of just, not everyone who does that is going to do that, but there is definitely a trickle-down effect of like, hey, you drop some money on this big thing, and then you see, oh, this other project looks really interesting. Oh, you only need to pledge $20 to get a copy of the game. Alright, I'm down. And then it goes out from there. And obviously, the fact that we haven't really had any high-profile projects this year, or at least not as many as we had before, the biggest one is probably the one that's going on right now for System Shock from Night Dive. And the target for that is $900,000. I mean, it's doing pretty well for itself, but I don't know if it's going to be another Bloodstained or Shenmue. We'll see. And ICO Partners are pretty much agreeing with this, that the absence of these big projects is a major difference in the performance of video game Kickstarters. They basically split projects into 6 pledge tiers and found that the money pledged to smaller products increased when compared to the same categories in 2015, with the top earning category down dramatically. So basically more money was given to smaller projects, less money to bigger projects, probably because there were less of them. I mean, as I keep saying, 2015 saw some pretty high-profile Kickstarters, including, as I mentioned, Shenmue 3 and Bloodstained, but also Bard's Tale 4 at $1.5 million, Divinity Original Sin, $2 million, Friday the 13th, $820,000. These are not monies to sneeze at. Not to say there's not been any high-profile Kickstarters this year, I just feel that there hasn't been as many, and definitely not one of Shenmue or Bloodstained's caliber. One of the bigger ones at the moment is obviously the one from Night Dive for System Shock, but you know, we've seen other ones that have done really well. For example, the $700,000 Kickstarter for Black Room by John Romero and Adrian Carmack was cancelled for its completion. But we also had Battalion 1944, raised about $450,000, Knights and Bikes $150,000, and $175,000, rather, should I say. So, while that's, you know, still big money, it's not anything compared to the millions of dollars we were talking about from 2015. Now, there's another thing to also take into consideration, and that is, of course, the presence of competing services. Now, we've had Indiegogo around for a while, actually backed a project on there by the name of Indivisible, which is a RPG by the guys who did Skullgirls. And also we have the new Kickstarting platform from Double Fine, which of course is Fig, which is basically works more like an investment platform. So the presence of that and the fact that Psychonauts 2 was on there and raised almost $4 million, well, that's basically $4 million that didn't go to Kickstarter because, hey, it's on Double Fine's thing. Now, they are still awaiting approval from US regulators before Fig can actually start releasing the money. As well as a couple other games are also still waiting before their money can actually be released. So there are some hiccups there on the Fig side of things. But the point is that these competing services are still there and taking up big names. Now obviously, another thing you need to look at is, well, a general skepticism for ambitious crowdfunding ventures or spiritual successors or direct sequels or anything like that. And obviously it's become clear that, you know, the higher the target is, you know, the more money to make, the bigger the game is. Obviously the longer it's going to take to delivery, and we've seen that, of course, with Mighty Number 9, which has just been an absolute disaster area from day one. And obviously that's not to say that all Kickstarters are like that. We've had several successful Kickstarters, for example, Pillars of Eternity, you know, Wasteland 2, Elite Dangerous, all sorts of successful Kickstarters. But what's in people's minds is, look, Mighty Number 9 was a disaster. We waited forever and it was bad when it came out. And even if it's not bad when it comes out, you're waiting a long time for it to come out, which that might have something to do with it. However, there is something to take away other than all this from ICO Partners analysis. While the number of video game projects listed on Kickstarter in the past 6 months is down, the number of junk projects, those with $0 pledged to them, is also decreasing, quote, possibly indicating the notion that Kickstarter projects are not easy to get funded is sinking into the larger audience. So basically, you do have several factors contributing to this. It's not just, hey, people are losing faith in Kickstarter, Kickstarter is dying or anything like that. Let's not get dramatic here. But things are down, and the lack of big projects, the lack of video game projects in general, have contributed to that. I feel like the sort of long-winded development times and the sort of horror stories around Kickstarter definitely contributed. But I feel like overall the service is still worth pursuing, and kickstarting and crowdfunding is still something worthwhile. We've got so many games that probably wouldn't have existed thanks to it. So here's hoping it doesn't go anywhere anytime soon, because, well, without it we wouldn't be getting Bloodstained, we wouldn't have got Pillars of Eternity, we wouldn't have gotten Wasteland 2 or Undertale or any of these excellent games that I've mentioned. So fingers crossed, but I wouldn't view it as the death gloom just yet. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.